Hey guys, welcome back to the Basement Breakdown. Alright, we've got another fight night. We have got Israel Adesanya going up against Joe Pyfer. Well guys, I'm pretty sure that we started the channel off on an Israel Adesanya fight and we picked him to win against Nasruddin Imavov. And if you guys watched that fight, it did not go as planned. I do believe I also said though in that video that if Israel Adesanya was to get knocked out, it would be against the fence, and that's kind of what happened. So at least we got the method right. We are back to it, so let's get into it. We start off in the featherweight division. Marcio Barbosa versus Zhu Kangjie. Marcio Barbosa, I believe, came off of the Contender Series, and Zhu was a road to the UFC guy, if I'm not mistaken. These guys are both pretty powerful, honestly, and I'm kind of excited to see this fight. Zhu is a little bit more experienced than Marcio, but Marcio in his last time out versus Damon Wilson was able to score a knockout in the first round, and I believe he knocked down Damon like twice. There was that. Like, the problem with Zhu is he goes to these like split decisions, and he's been like, all his fights are on road to the UFC, and none of them are by knockout. They're all by unanimous decision or split decision. And fuck me, like it's very tough to take that. I just don't trust a lot of the road to the UFC guys. I'm gonna go with Marcio Barbosa to win this fight. I would say that Zhu has like veteran experience, but he's just been on road to the UFC a bunch of times. And it's like, he's fighting against a bunch of people within his culture. Like, there's not a lot of diversity in the opponents. So I'm going to go with Barbosa. I'm going to take him by knockout in the second round. I expect Zhu to try and grapple with Barbosa, and I don't think it's going to work out. We have Alexia Thainara versus Bruna, Brazil. Oh, Bruna, Brazil. She lost to Caitlin Souza last time out, and Alexia Thainara, well, she's been on an absolute tear, beating the likes of Molly McCann, who is now boxing, and I think she's like 3-0 in boxing, which very well suits her, because all she was doing was getting submitted by people with like negative records in the UFC. She most recently beat Luma Lukeboon, and yeah, she's fighting Bruna, Brazil. I'm going to go with Alexia Thainara. This is going to be a typical women's 29-28 decision. It's going to go all 3 rounds, over 2.5. Add it to your bet slips, or don't, because I wouldn't. I don't like to bet on some of these chick fights, just because sometimes you're flipping a coin. I'm not sure if the odds are out right now, as I am filming this a little early, but I'm sure Thainara is a favorite. We're going to take her by unanimous decision. We move up to the light heavyweight division, guys. We have undefeated Navajo Stirling versus Bruno Lopes. I believe I took Navajo Stirling in his last fight, which was it entertaining? I believe it was somewhat boring. Yeah, it was against Rodolfo Bellato. Somewhat competitive. Navajo Stirling got a little tired. They kind of both did. And Rodolfo Bellato won his last fight last time out. Bruno Lopes, he got messed up by Dustin Jacoby, and that was in the Gamrot versus Klein card, and it's taken a lot of time off since then, I guess, because that was a pretty bad knockout. But, Dustin Jacoby, being the Glory Kickboxing veteran that he is, one of my favorite fighters to still fight in the UFC. Love the guy. Predicted his last knockout in the second round. Nevertheless, Bruno Lopes has wins against Magomed Gadzhigulov, not going to try and pronounce that, and Mikhail Sanzihiani on the Contender Series, and he lost to Brinson Rubiro, which is never a good sign. We're going with Navajo Stirling, who I'm sure will be a heavy favorite in this fight. They're still building this guy Navajo up in the light heavyweight division, and honestly, he's got to work on that cardio a little bit, and I'd like to see a little bit more finishing ability out of him, so I hope he finishes Bruno Lopes in this fight. If not, I expect him to win a decision. I think this will go to a decision. So I'm going to go with my gut and say Navajo Stirling 29-28. We move up the card to a women's flyweight fight between Gabriella Fernandes and Casey O'Neill. As far as women's fights go, this should be a fun one. Casey O'Neill is 10-2 and Gabriella Fernandes is 11-3. Both of these chicks come to fight, and they come to mostly, bang on the feet. No pun intended. And Gabriella Fernandes is on a 3-fight win streak against Carly Judice, Wang Kong, and Julia Storyenko, while Casey O'Neill is on a 1-fight win streak versus Luana Santos. She lost to Jennifer Maia and Ariana De Silva. That was by unanimous decision and a submission. She has wins against Roxanne Modafferi by split, Antonia Shevchenko by KO. I mean, she's fought a lot of kind of bums, and honestly, Gabriella Fernandez's win against Wang Kong is super impressive, especially with how good Wang Kong's been doing as of late. Gabriella Fernandez, from what I've seen from her, she's just she's very aggressive, and honestly, she's quite technical for a women's fighter on the feet. I'm gonna take her in this fight over Casey O'Neill by unanimous decision. I feel like she could find a TKO over Casey O'Neill, but I'm going to trust in Casey O'Neill's grit and toughness to at least bank around or survive the fight. So in classic fashion, 29-28, Gabriella Fernandes. We move up the card.
Tyrell Fortune will be taking on Marcin Tybura late notice, so we've got to talk about that and add that to the video before we put it out. And in addition, I missed Ricky Simón versus Adrian Yanez on the early prelims. And looking at the card, I can't believe that Ricky Simón and Adrian Yanez are fighting on the preliminary, while you have a guy like Michael Chiesa fighting on the main card. I feel like me and you, UFC fans, would much rather see Ricky Simón and Adrian Yanez on the main card. Anyways, let's get into it. I also started doing some jiu-jitsu, guys, and I am currently doing a gi. Here's the here's my gi, and here's my white belt. So yeah, I'll be starting that officially. I've only done a couple lessons, so I'll be starting officially on I think April 2nd when I get back from Florida, and I'll be doing that consistently. It's a little expensive keeping doing jiu-jitsu and powerlifting like I do, but I really think it'll be helpful for me, and I really enjoy it, so it's fun, and I'm excited to learn and develop my my ground game. So let's do it. Let's start off. Ricky Simón versus Adrian Yanez. Adrian Yanez, there was a time when he was he was like an Apex hero, knocking dudes out in the Apex, but honestly, he's kind of undersized for the division, and I kind of see Ricky Simón winning this fight. Ricky Simón, he's not too tall or anything, but he's a pretty big, bulky dude. I just see him having a lot of power, a lot of back takes. Adrian Yanez definitely isn't as good on the ground as Ricky Simón. I feel like Ricky Simón can land a 1-2 out in the open that hurts Adrian Yanez and maybe puts him away after that. But I do see Ricky Simón having the advantage in this fight, and we're going to go with him. And then we have Marcin Tybura versus Tyrell Fortune. This is a short notice fight. Marcin Tybura is pretty freaking old, and honestly, he's pretty slow. He got knocked out by Ante DeLiha not long ago, so there's that. He just looks slow, and honestly, Tyrell Fortune, he hasn't fought in the UFC. He fought on, I think he's a part of Team Killcliff and stuff, but he's fought in, regional MMA and stuff, and this is a big step up for him. He does have a lot of power. I looked at, a lot of his fights. He has one loss, I believe, in recent memory, that you can kind of look at in his last 15 fights or so. So there's that. But I don't know. I'm kind of worried for Marcin Tybura in this fight. I don't think he's favorited. I think he's a slight underdog in the opening lines. My problem is Marcin Tybura just he's fucking really slow on the feet, and power can put him away. And the guy's a little younger than Tybura. I think he's 35, making his UFC heavyweight debut. And for a heavyweight, that's not super old or anything. So honestly, I'm not going to go with Marcin Tybura. I'm going to go with Tyrell Fortune by KO in this fight. Marcin Tybura is much too slow. So with that being said, we're going to get the video out. I hope you guys like my room. I've got a little bit of Pokemon, a little bit of Charles Oliveira. I've got Pocopia loaded up on my Switch 2 that I'm going to try out very soon, and I'm hyped to play. Got some comics in the background. And yeah, guys, let's get it this weekend. I'm excited as we get into warmer weather here in Canada and we move into spring, which is my birthday. I'll be turning 26. Let's go. Basement breakdown out. Enjoy the rest of the video.
We move up to a lightweight fight, which I don't know why the fuck is happening, but I guess you don't want to give Chase Hooper people who are, somewhat decent because they'll just knock him out. So you give him Lance Gibson Jr., who last fought Bobby Green, and that was a terrible fight where somehow a judge gave it to Lance Gibson Jr. It was like a split decision. Bobby Green outclassed him all 3 rounds, absolutely styled on him. Lance Gibson Jr. has spent most of his time in regional MMA and got a very short notice fight, I believe, and then he took it. But now he's fighting Chase Hooper, who was on a bit of a streak, albeit against absolutely nobody, and then he ran into Alexander Fernandes, where last time out he got knocked out towards the end of the first round. He was doing pretty good towards the end of the first round. He was on a 5-fight win streak against Nick Fiore, Jordan Leavitt, Vyacheslav Borisov, Clay Guida, and Jim Miller. Just taking out all these old dudes. I honestly think that Jordan Leavitt win is probably his best out of the 5, and Steve Garcia before that absolutely touched him up. Chase Hooper is extremely deficient on the feet, as we've seen, and you could just go through his fights. He's extremely good at jiu-jitsu, and he's quite lengthy for the division and the weight class. For Lance Gibson Jr., he doesn't do anything that impresses me, and he doesn't look like he has much power or fluidity on the feet. I just don't trust him to put anything together, and I don't really think he'll be able to put Chase Hooper's lights out. Alexander Hernandez at least started his career knocking out Beneil Dariush, which is his claim to fame. He had that. Beneil Dariush was a ranked opponent. Alexander Hernandez came in, knocked out a dude like that. And Lance Gibson Jr. just doesn't really, I don't see that for him. So we're going to go with a Chase Hooper, either submission or a unanimous decision. But I honestly think Chase will be able to sub Lance either in the first round or the halfway through the second. I think he gets him in a Kimura. We move to the feature fight of the prelims. We have Ignacio Bahamondes versus Tofiq Musayev. This is a fight that I believe was made decently, not too long ago. I think this transpired not too long ago. Tofiq Musayev, he last fought Mitzbek Orablai, and then he got submitted. Mitzbek Orablai has looked very good in his last couple fights, moved from 155 division to 170. We took him in his last fight against Chris Curtis, where he got the most takedowns ever in a 170-pound fight. It was 18 or 19 takedowns. That's only second, I believe, in the whole UFC to Khabib. It was very much a Khabib-esque style fight where he had his back, but we're not talking about that. Mitzbek Orablai. Tofiq didn't look particularly good on the ground that fight. Ignacio Bahamondes has looked pretty good his last couple fights. What was his last loss? He lost to Rafael Fiziev in a competitive fight. Rafael Fiziev got back on his horse with that fight, so that was nice. But before that, he had beat Jalen Turner, Manuel Torres, and Christian Gallegos, which honestly are very good wins. Jalen Turner, Manuel Torres, these are very good wins. And it was a good fight with Rafael Fiziev. We know how tough Rafael Fiziev is. I know he got knocked out last time, but he was winning the first round against Marcio Huffy until the second round, so there's that. I think Ignacio Bahamondes is very smart. He's also very lengthy for the 155-pound division. He has a lot of ways to submit people, and if he's on bottom and you're in his guard, he has a lot of ways to submit you. So I'd be very careful if I was Tofiq, especially last time out, getting handled by Mitzbek Orablai. I'm going with Ignacio Bahamondes in the feature fight, and I think he's going to get this done either by a finish or a unanimous decision. But honestly, I don't think this fight will go all 3. I expect Ignacio to get a finish. Holy shit, I just saw Michael Chiesa appear on the main card. It's 2026, guys. We have Terrance McKinney versus Kyle Nelson, and this is to start off the main card. Kyle Nelson, the monster. Last time out, he was in a weird fight. I think it was against Matt Frivola, where the judges, you thought it was going to be stopped, and then it wasn't stopped. Am I right about that? Yeah, Matt Frivola, weird fight where they just like, you thought it was stopped and they just kept it going into like the third round or whatever, which is kind of crazy. Kyle Nelson was on a 3-fight win streak against Blake Bilder, Fernando Padilla, Bill Algeo. Then he lost to Steve Garcia, who's fighting on the White House card, who's very good. And now he goes up against Terrance McKinney. Terrance McKinney last time lost to Chris Duncan. Before that, he beat Slavaklaus, Vislav Borchev, and Damir Hadzovic. Two absolute bums. Before that, he lost to Esteban Ribovics. Terrance McKinney is very hit and miss. He's either, knock you out or get knocked out, and there's no two ways about it. It's kind of tough. Like, Terrance McKinney's fought... I don't trust it. I'm taking Kyle Nelson by TKO over Terrance McKinney. Yeah, I think it'll be, it's just like his fights, you can just call them. It'll be a car crash of a first round, and someone's getting knocked out. I think Terrance McKinney's getting flatlined. Overhand right, Kyle Nelson. We move up to the next fight. We have Mansur Abdul-Malik versus Yousri Belgouri. This is a very interesting fight. I took against Yousri in his first fight in the UFC. I took Azamat Bakoyev to beat the kickboxer, but Yousri had very good takedown defense that fight, and as the fight progressed, he was able to really beat up Azamat Bakoyev and have his way with him. He's very tall for the division, and with the kickboxing background, he's got a lot of weapons at range, and he goes up against a guy who's quite dangerous himself, Mansur Abdul-Malik. He had a draw with Cody Brundage. Why am I thinking of that right now? Mansur Abdul-Malik has a 9-0 record. He beat Wes Schultz on the Contender Series, Dusko Tachovich, Nick Klein, like I said, the draw with Cody Brundage, and last time out, Antonio Tricoli. And as I said about Antonio Tricoli, who we spoke about recently, I don't see him as a UFC caliber fighter, so that has to be taken into account when going into this fight. And honestly, on the Contender Series, Yousri Belgouri lost to Marco Tulio, so there's that. And then he beat Taiga Iwasaki, and then obviously Azamat Bakoyev. I'm going to go with Mansur Abdul-Malik to show some evolution in this fight. Like, if you look at his fights with Cody Brundage and, just all of his fights, like, he looks very good, but, like, he doesn't always, like, pull the trigger at certain points, and he can let fighters, get ahead sometimes. So I think that this is a tough one to call because Yousri Belgouri he's got a lot of tools, like I said, but I'm going to go with Mansur Abdul-Malik, and I'm going to go with a second-round TKO over Yousri Belgouri, and we move up the card. We have Julian Erosa versus Le'Rion Douglas. Julian Erosa lost last time out, I believe, and I picked against him. Yeah, I obviously picked Melquizo Costa over Julian Erosa. Before that, he was on a 3-fight win streak. Darren Elkins, Christian Rodriguez, and Ricardo Ramos. Julian Erosa didn't look bad against Melquizo Costa, especially like the way Melquizo Costa has been fighting recently. He's looked very good, and he's, on a very nice streak. Le'Rion Douglas is another Contender Series guy who absolutely beat the shit out of Cam Teague, and now he finds his first fight in the UFC against Julian Erosa. And it's honestly a very tough fight. Julian Erosa is a tough test in the featherweight division, and still a tough test. Like, he's only 1 fight removed from a 3-fight win streak, so I think it's going to be a good fight, and I'm going with Julian Erosa as an underdog pick for this fight. I don't pick a lot of underdogs. I've been going with a lot of Contender Series people. I'm going with Julian Erosa by decision over Le'Rion Douglas. I hope I don't get that wrong. What can happen is Le'Rion Douglas just knocks out Julian Erosa. Julian Erosa, we're taking him. Moving on. We have Michael Chiesa taking on Nico Price. Nico Price is a new opponent for Michael Chiesa. I am not sure why Nico Price is fighting again on a UFC card in the UFC on a main card. He got knocked out in his last fight, like in the first minute. All respect to him. He's a veteran of the sport, but Robbie Lawler's last fight in the UFC was against that guy. And now Michael Chiesa in 2026 is fighting on a main card against him, and it's just disrespectful. I am so not looking forward to this fight, and I'm sure Michael Chiesa will be making probably some of the most money on the on this entire card just because of the veteran and the UFC's pay structure. Like, he's been around for a while, so he's going to be making a crap ton of money to fight fucking Nico Price in 2026. So yeah, I'm going with Michael Chiesa by decision. I feel like Dana White should go up to him before and say, listen, if you do not finish Nico Price in this fight, we are going to cut both of you guys, because we're already going to cut Nico Price. And yeah, so you've got to get a finish, because if he doesn't either sub him or knock him out, which, I mean, it's Michael Chiesa, yeah, you got to finish Nico Price in 2026 or they both get cut. Anyways, we're going with Michael Chiesa by decision, and they both get cut. Let's go. Alexia Grasso versus Macy Barber in the co-main event. Macy Barber was supposed to fight Erin Blanchfield a while ago, and literally like minutes before the main event was supposed to take place, Macy Barber was unable to walk out. She had a seizure or something like that, and she had to go to the hospital, so glad she's okay. She's back in it against Alexia Grasso. Alexia Grasso is, UFC prodigy. She's got some feed pics on the internet. And, yeah, she's lost 3 fights in a row. She was in a trilogy with the current champion, Valentina Shevchenko, where she was able to get her belt in the first fight after Valentina made a grave mistake and Alexia Grasso submitted her. They fought 2 more times, draw, and then she lost in the third fight. Then she fought Natalia Silva, where she lost a unanimous decision. She just got outstruck all 3 rounds. So yeah, Macy Barber, in regards to her, she's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fight win streak against Corinne Silva, Caitlin Caminera, Amanda Ribas, Andre Lee, Jessica Ai, Montana De La Rosa, and Miranda Maverick. These are some pretty good names. Some of them are sparse. I kind of expect her to beat Alexia Grasso throughout 3 rounds, and yeah, like I feel like Macy Barber will be one of those people who's kind of knocking at the door for a championship. Like she could fight Natalia Silva. I know she'll be fighting for a championship, Natalia Silva, but whatever. She could fight a lot of girls. I think she'll be able to beat Alexia Grasso over 3. It's probably a close fight on the odds, and I could see some people picking Alexia, but I'm going with Macy Barber, 29-28 over Alexia Grasso. This brings us to the main event, and holy fuck, am I worried about this. The odds have closed a bit. I think before it was like a minus 200 for Joe Pyfer, and now it's like a minus 120 for him, which is very tough. Israel Adesanya hasn't looked very good in his last couple fights, and it seems to be that age is catching up to the middleweight. Definitely one of the GOATs of the sport and of the division for sure. In my opinion, probably the second best middleweight to ever do it. In his last 5, he's lost 4. He lost the belt to Alex Pereira in a fight he was winning and then got standing TKO'd. Won the belt back, lost to Sean Strickland, lost to Dricus du Plessis, got knocked out by Nasruddin Imavov. And he's fighting way down in the rankings, being at number 6, going up against Joe Pyfer, who has not fought nearly the caliber fighters that Israel Adesanya has fought. Joe Pyfer has fought Abus Magomedov last time out, where he was able to knock him out. Before that, he fought Kelvin Gastelum, an old Kelvin Gastelum, and he won that fight via unanimous decision. Izzy has a fight versus Kelvin Gastelum, which is in the UFC Hall of Fame for being like one of the best fights ever. Joe Pyfer's only loss in the UFC was to Jack Hermanson in a main event where he won the first 2 rounds, kind of gassed himself, and then lost the other 3. Just kind of Then he came back, beat Marc-Andre Beirut, Kelvin Gastelum, and Abus Magomedov. I just this is such a tough fight. Joe Pyfer hasn't fought nearly... I'm really trying to reason this because I really do want to pick Israel Adesanya over Joe. But it's very tough because I feel like Israel has just fallen from grace so much, and he is just not the same fighter he was before. Even in the Nasruddin Imavov fight, he was doing very well in the first round, clear 10-9 in the first round, and got caught in the second. Even in the Dricus du Plessis fight, he was able to do well in some rounds. Round 3, I believe, was Israel Adesanya's best round in that fight. Sean Strickland versus Izzy kind of just got dog walked. But I just look at Joe Pyfer and I just see a record of guys who just don't even come close to that of Israel Adesanya's. And it's just, I don't want to go with Joe Pyfer in this fight. I really do want to go with Izzy, but I've picked him in his last couple fights to win, and he's just not been able to get it done. And Joe Pyfer has some power in his hands. Like, but who has he put out, really? He's put out Ozzy Diaz, Alan Emendovsky, Gerard Michart, Marc-Andre Beyrou, and that's about it. Oh, really tough here. I'm going with Israel Adesanya. Fuck it. I can't do it. I don't know. I can't get it out of my head. It might be one of the last times we ever see this guy in the UFC. Like, I just don't know what happens if he loses to Joe Pyfer. Like, being ranked so low, like, what does Izzy really want after this? And it's been 3 in a row. Like, he's looked good in his other fights. Like, it's just like Pyfer can absolutely just catch him, put him down, and then I'm just absolutely screaming at the TV, being like, ah, shit, I should have picked Joe Pyfer. But this is extremely hard. Has Joe Pyfer ever been finished? But Jack Hermanson was able to beat him over 5 rounds. I just like, okay, I'm gonna go with Izzy. All right, guys, that is my breakdown of UFC Fight Night, Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. It's been over a year since I started my channel. I went with Izzy then, and I'm going with him now. I lost that one, and I'm hoping to get this one back. He hasn't won in that time frame. He's taken a lot of time off since his last fight, and yeah, he's getting up there in age, but we're gonna trust in the style bender to get it done. All right, guys, Basement Breakdown out. Enjoy your week. Good luck on the picks.